Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you are watching this right now, you are likely still recovering from what we have just witnessed. In the history of professional tennis, there are matches that define a season, matches that define a career, and then there are matches that redefine the very physics of sport. We talk about David versus Goliath as a cliche, a throwaway phrase we use whenever an underdog steps onto the court against a giant. But today, inside the cauldron of the main stadium, that cliche didn't just come to life. It screamed, it fought, and it refused to blink. We came into this expecting a coronation. We came expecting the world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, a woman who has been striking the ball with the force of a wrecking ball, a player who has turned the women's tour into her personal firing range to walk through this match as a formality. The betting odds were lopsided. The pundits were unanimous. The narrative was written before the first ball, was even toss-up for the serve. They said it was a stepping stone. They said it was a warm-up. They said the gap in power, the gap in experience, and the gap in ranking was simply too wide to bridge. But on the other side of the net stood the pride of the Philippines, a 20-year-old lefty who has been quietly, methodically carving her name into the bedrock of the WTA Tour. Eala. We knew she was good. We knew she was a fighter. We watched her academy days. We watched her junior slams. We watched her climb from the hundreds into the top 50. But today was not about ranking points. Today was not about technique. Today was about the sheer, unadulterated refusal to die. What we just saw was not a tennis match. It was a collision of two distinct philosophies of violence. On one side, you had the industrial, overwhelming kinetic energy of Sabalenka, the kind of power that usually breaks opponents before they even swing their racket. On the other side, you had the surgical, relentless, iron-willed counterpunching of Eala. And for 3 hours, 3 agonizing, beautiful, heart-stopping hours, nobody blinked. I want you to pause and understand the magnitude of this. Aryna Sabalenka does not just beat people. She dismantles them. She hits the ball harder than half the men's tour. When she is in the zone, the court shrinks. The opponent has no time to breathe, no time to think. And yet, there was Eala standing on the baseline, looking up at the world number one, and saying, "Is that all you have?" The headline you are seeing everywhere, the tweet that is trending globally, is "Nobody blinks." And that is the perfect description. In a sport defined by momentum shifts, where players usually crack under pressure, today we saw two gladiators lock eyes and refuse to look away. We saw forehands clocking in at speeds that shouldn't be possible late in a third set. We saw a defense from Eala that defied the geometry of the court. We saw Sabalenka roaring, not in dominance, but in frustration and then in respect. This video is going to be long. It has to be. We cannot summarize this in a 5-minute highlight reel. We need to dissect the anatomy of this fight. We need to understand how a young player from Quezon City walked onto the biggest stage in the world and went toe-to-toe with the leviathan of modern tennis. We're going to break down the tactics, the specific way Eala used her lefty spin to neutralize Sabalenka's backhand. We're going to talk about the serve speeds. We are going to analyze the psychological warfare that happened between the points. If you're a fan of tennis, if you are a fan of sport, or if you are just a fan of the human spirit pushing itself to the absolute limit, you need to stay with me. Because what happened today changes the landscape. It sends a message to the locker room. It sends a message to the tour. The hierarchy has been challenged. The status quo has been shaken. So buckle up, turn off your notifications, sit down, because we are about to go deep, deeper than we ever have before, into the match that the world will be talking about for years to come. Eala, Aryna Sabalenka, the fight where nobody blinked. Let's get into it. To truly appreciate the violence and the beauty of what unfolded on center court, we first have to understand the context. Context is everything. You cannot view this match in a vacuum. You have to look at the trajectory of these two women leading up to this collision. Let's start with the Titan. Aryna Sabalenka. Coming into this match, she has been playing what many analysts, myself included, consider to be peak tennis. This isn't just about power anymore. The Sabalenka of 3 or 4 years ago was a raw force of nature, prone to double faults, prone to emotional implosions. That player is gone. The Sabalenka we see today is a refined weapon. She has tamed her serve. She has added touch to her game. She moves better than any power hitter in history. When she steps on the hard court, the surface speed amplifies her ground strokes, making them skid to the court at a pace that usually renders defense impossible. She is the world number one for a reason. She is the final boss of women's tennis. And then Eala. The narrative around Eala has always been potential. For years, we whispered about her left-handed game. We've compared her to the greats who used that lefty spin to open up the court. We watched her train at the Rafa Nadal Academy, absorbing that grit, that suffer-on-the-court mentality that Rafa is famous for. But there is a massive difference between potential and performance on a slam stage against the best in the world. Eala's rise to the top 50 was steady, but today was the litmus test. Today was the question: can she handle the weight of shot? When you play Sabalenka, the ball feels heavy. It's not just fast, it has mass. It pushes your racket back. It jars your wrist. Most players, when they face this, they retreat. They stand 5, 6 feet behind the baseline just to buy themselves time. And that is exactly what Sabalenka wants. Once you retreat, she owns the angles. She runs you ragged. The tactical brilliance of Eala today. And this is the first key point of our deep dive, was her court positioning. Everyone expected her to back up. She didn't. She stood right on the baseline. In some rallies, she was even taking the ball on the rise. Do you understand how difficult that is? To take a 120 kilometer per hour ground stroke on the rise, half volleying it back with topspin? It requires hand-eye coordination that is off the charts. But more importantly, it requires courage. It requires the nerve to stand in the path of an oncoming train and not flinch. The first set, the onslaught. Let's dissect the first set. This is where the nobody blinks narrative really started, although it looked like it might be a blowout initially. Sabalenka came out firing. The sound of the ball off her racket was thunderous. Boom, boom, boom. She was hitting winners from neutral positions. She broke Eala's serve in the third game. At that moment, 99% of the audience thought, okay, here we go. 6-2, 6-2. Good effort, Alex, but next time. But watch the body language. Usually, when a young player gets broken early by the world number one, the shoulders drop. They look at their box. They panic. Eala walked to her chair, took a sip of water, and stared straight ahead. No panic. No fear. In the very next game, Eala adjusted. She realized she couldn't out-hit Sabalenka. If you try to have a power contest with Aryna, you lose. Period. So Eala went to the toolbox. She started using the lefty slice out wide on the ad court. She started looping the ball high to Sabalenka's backhand shoulder. This is a tactic we saw Nadal use against Federer for years. High, heavy topspin to the one-handed backhand. Sabalenka has a two-hander, yes, but she likes the ball in her strike zone, waist height. Eala refused to give her that ball. She put it up high, forcing Sabalenka to reach up, robbing her that leverage. Or she sliced it low, forcing Sabalenka to bend her knees and dig it out. Suddenly, the error started to creep in for the Belarusian. A forehand into the net, a backhand sailing long. Eala wasn't winning points with winners yet. She was winning them by disrupting the rhythm of the machine. She broke back. The crowd, which was polite initially, suddenly woke up. They realized they had a contest. The tiebreak of the century fast forward to the first set tiebreak. This sequence of play deserves its own documentary. It was 6-6. Tension was suffocating. Sabalenka served a 118 miles per hour bomb down the tee. Eala barely got a racket on it, blocked it back. Sabalenka stepped in for the kill shot, a forehand inside out. Now, against any other player, that point is over. But Eala anticipated. She slid. On a hard court, mind you, stretched out that left arm and cracked a running forehand down the line. It caught the paint. The stadium erupted. The audacity to go for that shot in a tiebreak against the world number one. It showed that Eala wasn't there to survive. She was there to win. They traded mini breaks. Sabalenka saved a set point with an ace. Eala saved a set point with a daring drop shot. Who plays a drop shot at 7 to 8 down in a tiebreak against a power hitter? Alex Eala does. That drop shot wasn't just a shot, it was a statement. It said, I have hands, I have touch, and I am not afraid of you. Eala eventually took the first set, and the look on Sabalenka's face was one of genuine shock. She looked at her coaching box as if to say, Who is this girl? And why won't you go away? The Sabalenka response. Now, we have to give credit where credit is due. Aryna Sabalenka is a champion, and champions respond. In the second set, she dialed up the intensity. She stopped making errors. She started aiming for bigger margins, but hitting with even more pace. It was a terrifying display of controlled aggression. This is where the physical toll became apparent. Eala was doing a lot of running. The windshield wiper effect, left, right, left, right. Sabalenka was moving her around like a puppet on a string. The second set went to Sabalenka, 6-3. It felt like order was restored. The giant had woken up. The underdog had had her moment, but now reality was setting in. But this is where the script flips. This is where the title Nobody Blinks truly earns its keep. The third set, the war of attrition. Most young players, after winning a tight first set and losing the second physically, they fade in the third. The adrenaline wears off. The legs get heavy. The doubt creeps in. I miss my chance, they think. Alex Eala came out for the third set, looking fresher than she did in the first. Her conditioning team deserves a medal, but it was her mental conditioning that was the star. The third set was a dogfight. There were no easy holds. Every game went to deuce. Every game was a battle of wills. I want to highlight a specific game at 3-3 in the third set. This game lasted 14 minutes. 14 minutes for one game. It had everything. Sabalenka hitting overhead smashes that Eala somehow returned. Eala hitting acute angles that pulled Sabalenka off the doubles alley. There was a rally, shot number 24, where Sabalenka hit a ball that clipped the net cord and dribbled over. A lucky break. It should have been a winner. Eala sprinted from the baseline, full speed, got the ball inches off the ground, and flicked a lob over Sabalenka's head. Sabalenka ran back, hit a tweener between the legs. Eala volleyed it. Sabalenka passed her. It was madness. The crowd was on their feet before the point even ended. When Eala won that game to go up 4-3, the noise was deafening. It wasn't just Filipino fans. It was tennis fans. It was Australians. It was neutrals. Everyone loves a fighter. And Eala was fighting with every ounce of her being. The tactical shift, the lefty serve. Let's talk about the specific weapon that kept Eala in this match late in the third. The lefty serve out wide to the ad court. Sabalenka is tall. She has a long reach. But the lefty slice serve, when hit correctly, curves away from the body. It forces a returner to stretch. Throughout the third set, whenever Eala was in trouble, 15-30, 30-40, she went to that spot. She hit the slider. Sabalenka knew it was coming, but the execution was so precise, she couldn't punish it. It's the same serve that McEnroe used, the same serve Kvitova uses. It's the get-out-of-jail-free card for left-handers, and Eala used it masterfully. It prevented Sabalenka from teeing off on the return. It neutralized the biggest weapon on the court, the climax. We arrived at 5-5 in the third. Nobody blinks. The camera zoomed in on their eyes. Sabalenka's eyes were wide, fierce, intense. Eala's eyes were narrow, focused, calm. Fire and ice. Sabalenka served. Ace. Eala returned. Winner. Sabalenka drive volley. Winner. Eala passing shot. Winner. They were trading blows like heavyweight boxers in the 12th round. No defense. Just offense versus offense. Sabalenka realized that she couldn't wait for Eala to miss because Eala wasn't missing. And Eala realized she couldn't wait for Sabalenka to make an error because Sabalenka was locked in. The final few games were a blur of brilliance. We saw the rise of a superstar, regardless of the final scoreline, and we know how close it was. The result almost became secondary to performance. If Eala won, it's the greatest upset of the decade. If she lost, It's the greatest defeat with honor we've seen in years. But looking at the stats, looking at the winners to unforced error ratio, this was high-quality tennis. This wasn't a messy three-setter. It was a pristine, high-octane exhibition of the sport at its zenith. The mental aspect. I want to touch on the psychology one last time before we wrap up the analysis. Playing the world number one carries a fear factor. You are playing a reputation as much as the player. We saw players crumble against Serena Williams before the match even started. We see it now with Eala and Aryna. Eala did not play the reputation. She played the ball. That is a hallmark of a champion in the making. She dissociated the opponent from fame. She saw a yellow ball, a court, and a puzzle to solve. And Sabalenka? She showed why she is number one. She didn't panic when a youngster pushed her. She dug deep. She found gears that other players don't have. This match was a testament to her mental fortitude as well. It takes two to make a classic. If Sabalenka had played poorly, this would just be an upset. But she played great and Eala matched her. That is what makes it special. So, where do we go from here? What is the fallout of this seismic event in Melbourne? First, for Aryna Sabalenka, this is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that the gap at the top is narrowing. The next generation isn't coming. They are here. They are fearless. They are athletic, and they have studied her game. She survived this test or fought through it. But she knows now that she cannot coast. Every match is a potential war. This will likely make her sharper, more dangerous for the rest of the tournament. Steel sharpens steel, and she just got sharpened by the finest grit sandpaper in the form of Eala. But the real story, the lasting story, is about Eala. Today, Eala graduated. She is no longer just the prospect. She is no longer just the junior champion. She is a legitimate, bona fide contender on the women's tour. You cannot play a match like this against the best player in the world and go back to being mediocre. The standard has been set. The Philippines has been waiting for a tennis hero. They have had legends in boxing, in billiards, in weightlifting. But tennis is a global sport of a different tier in terms of visibility and difficulty of entry. To have a homegrown talent not just participating, but dominating rallies against the world number one, that inspires a nation, that inspires a region. Southeast Asian tennis has found its torchbearer. We are going to see Eala's ranking skyrocket if she maintains this level. We are going to see her on the main courts of Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open. Sponsors will call. The media will swarm. But the most important thing is the internal belief. Once you know you can stand toe-to-toe with a giant, you never fear anyone else again. If she can handle Sabalenka's pace, she can handle anyone. If she can handle the pressure of Rod Laver Arena against the number one, she can handle any final. This match was a revelation. It showed us that the future of women's tennis is in incredibly safe hands. We have the power hitters. Yes, but we also have the tacticians, the fighters, the counterpunchers who refuse to blink. As we sign off, I want you to remember the feeling of this match. Remember the sound of the crowd. Remember the look in their eyes. We often get caught up in who lifted the trophy on Sunday. But sometimes the most memorable moment of a Grand Slam happens in the first week, in a match that defies all logic and expectation. This was one of those moments. Eala against Aryna Sabalenka. The strong fight where nobody blinked. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, if you felt the adrenaline of the match all over again, make sure you share this with a friend who loves tennis. The sport is alive and well, and today it was electric. I'm your name, and this has been a special breakdown of a match for the history books. We will be back with more coverage as the tournament progresses, but I have a feeling it's going to be hard to top what we just saw. Until next time, keep your eye on the ball. Good night.